to find ones that were really good skiers or snowboarders, because when you're on a chairlift, you are stuck next to the person to the right and the person to the left, and if you have the modicum of conversationalism in you, you can strike up a great conversation with them, and they're usually pretty well to do, because to be there on the mountain, it's expensive, and to get there and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to teach them how to convert people on the chairlift into potential clients.
Well, Alan, thank you for coming in today. I've known you for a lot of years now.
Yes, long time.
I think of all the success you've had in that time frame. And I know that you had DBL you sold in 2004. Did you have other real estate companies prior to that?
No.
Okay, so you started off as an agent at DBL. I think I want to get your background here. So you started off as an agent at or a partner at DBL.
Started as a partner at DBL. Bought the partner out in 1991 and ran the company as a sole owner until we sold in 2004. Yeah.
It's hard to believe when I saw the 2004 number. I can remember the day that you called and said, hey, we sold the company.
19 years ago this November.
I was just a kid, barely out of high school then.
Yeah, I know, me too.
So you sold to Sotheby's, and you had 9 offices. You grew that company to 9 offices.
9 offices, 800 agents, and not a lot of staff. You know, I mean, our staff was so crackerjack, and we had our system so in place that not only did we have no inefficiencies, we ran on a very light staff. I mean, maybe we had 20 staff members to run 800 agents.
Well, I remember Jane in the Santa Monica office and Linda, they answering the phone. Everybody pitched in.
Right.
Everybody pitched in to help the agents.
Right.
That was always impressive to me.
But really, every office had a receptionist, an office manager, and an OA. And that was pretty much it. You know, we had marketing centralized. Yeah. So really, there were 3 people per office, times 9 offices, 27 personnel. Yeah. You know, and you throw in David and Chatty, we were 29, 30 people to run 800 people. More than that, it actually becomes inefficient. Because now you have people that aren't talking with each other because there's too many of them. Yeah. And so that's a problem. But anyway.
Now, did you get into real estate? I mean, obviously you're an entrepreneur, and we'll get on to everything you've done since then, since DBL, but did you get into real estate to really build a business, or was that something that you were doing real estate, partnering on it, and you thought, you know what, I can do this, I can take this bigger?
Well, I got into real estate as a fluke, quite frankly. I got my degree in chemical engineering and came from a vacation from Chicago to Los Angeles. Met people who just opened a real estate company, and they said, hey, you know, kid, you'd be great selling real estate. Move to California. So I packed up, moved to California, and started selling real estate, and one thing led to the other, and it seemed to work, so I stayed.
I had no idea that's what your degree was in.
Yep.
Yeah. So now how did you know, I find that some of these younger companies that are starting up, hiring management, obviously this is something you've done very well, because to have 29 people run 800 people, you had to hire right.
Correct.
What did you look for in those people?
Well, first of all, top producers do not make good managers. Right. And good managers are generally not top producing agents. It's a whole different mentality. As a top producing agent, you're a barracuda, you're an independent contractor, and it's you against the world. As a manager, you need to be nurturing, you need to enjoy to teach, you need to be able to tell somebody for the 1,000th time the same thing and make it sound interesting and like you enjoy doing it.
I struggle with that one.
Right. So those are completely different things than what makes a top producer. So that's pretty much what I look for. I look for somebody who I think would make a good parent. Right. If I think they would make a good parent and they should have children, they'd make a good manager. Yeah. If not, then I try to turn them into top producers.
Okay. Now, do you take the managers, do you let them hire their own team then below them, or did you have a say in that?
I would let them do it all, and then I would meet the person just prior to being hired, because if they're crazy, I don't want to hire them, but I would allow them to do it all, because the person's going to be reporting to them. So not to do it would be completely illogical.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you hire the management and just let them control their office.
Exactly, and I paid the managers based on the net and on the gross.
Okay.
So the net was important because then they did cost savings. I didn't have to worry about it. Right. Because they knew the more cost savings they would do without it affecting production would be beneficial to them. and so then beneficial to me. And there was no cap.
Okay.
And that was one thing when we sold to Sotheby's. They said, "What do you mean your managers have no cap? This is impossible." I was like, "What do you mean impossible?" No, they're like, "Well, it can't be. We have to get rid of it." I said, "But it doesn't make any sense, because every time they won't exceed cap if you give them a cap. I'll tell you this right now.
Right.
And every time they exceed cap, whatever they exceed, I'm making a portion of that also that I wouldn't have had before. So why would I give them a cap? Nope, can't figure it out. Well, corporations, everybody's got to have a cap." Like, all right, well,
big corporations
sold to the wrong company, but yeah.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20 now, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, but it's a strong company. They're doing very well here in LA, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, so
not as well as they should be, but yes.
Right. And I think if once you cap somebody's income, especially if they're entrepreneurial, I think most of the people getting into real estate are entrepreneurial. You cap their income, you lose a lot of drive.
Right. Well, frankly, I think every occupation should be based on commission, and there should be very little or no base salary.
Right.
If you really want to get people to perform, because you need you want the horse to run, you need to wave the carrot in front of its face, and if you don't, it won't run. It doesn't mean it can't.
Right.
It doesn't mean it doesn't want to.
Right.
In some ways, that's your job.
Yeah.
In order to do that. So, but that's another management.
That's another video we'll get into later. All right. So you sold Sotheby's, and then you bought you were going back and forth from Utah, and you bought well, actually you didn't buy, you bought property up there, right? And turned that into a brokerage?
Yeah.
This is a great story, by the way, folks.
I decided I'm going to move to Park City to be a ski bum. And retire here. So I did that. So I moved to Park City, and I bought a really nice house on the mountain because I ski. So I had sold some real estate, some property that I had owned, and I needed to do a 1031 exchange. So I was in escrow. I had very limited time, so I went to Park City to stay at the house to think, well, I'll go into Salt Lake, look at medical buildings, that kind of stuff. I did. There was absolutely nothing. So when I came back to Park City, the HOA guy says to me, he says, well, the ski shop over here is going to come on the market. So what do you mean the ski shop? He says, yeah, that historic building that it's in and the ski shop, the developers who own it, they're done with the project, they just want out. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I don't know anything about a ski shop, but I love the building, and so I really like the manager. So I said, okay, I'll buy it. So now I go in there, I say to the manager, look, Todd, you built this business. I know nothing about running retail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell you the business, but I'm going to keep to the real estate. Is that a deal? He said, that's a deal. So then I went back to the seller and said, okay, I'll buy the ski shop. And then he said to me, well, I own this shack over here that's just dilapidated and ready to fall down, but it's like 100 years old, and it's attached to the hole in the mountain that's the old silver mine. He said, and that's for sale too. So how much is that? It was only like $100,000. So I said, okay, I'll buy the shack too. So I buy the shack. He says to me, oh, I also have plans for the shack that I was going to renovate it, restore it, and turn it into a bar/real estate office. Would that be of any interest to you? I said, well, the bar part is not. I don't see myself, pulling Brewsters and serving them to people. I said, but the real estate office is really interesting. So give me your preliminary plans that you had approved with the city. So I took that. So then I took the shack, and because it was historic, I had to work with the Historic Preservation Board, which I did such a good job. They've appointed me as a director of the Historic Preservation Board this year. So as of 2023, I'm now a director of the Park City Historic Preservation Board. I have to remember how to say that. So I took it down piece by piece, and every piece we took off, we had to write down and number it and create a diagram, and then we had to ship it off-site. So then we rebuilt a whole new infrastructure, and then when we were done, we brought all the pieces back, and according to where they fit, we put them back onto the shack. So it looks like the shack has never moved, but there's an amazing interior infrastructure. And so in the conference room, we have a big plate glass window, and we have this lights that turn on, and you can look all the way down in the mine shaft when you're sitting in the conference room. So it's really cool. So anyway, so now that I built the real estate office, I of course needed to open another real estate office. So I opened another real estate office there in Park City, and my thought was to find a lot of the people who were young and bartenders, waiters, but not in the real estate business, just fresh, absolutely new. And to teach them not only great customer service, but also to find ones that were really good skiers or snowboarders. Because when you're on a chairlift, you are stuck next to the person to the right and the person to the left, and if you have the modicum of conversationalism in you, you can strike up a great conversation with them, and they're usually pretty well to do, because to be there on the mountain, it's expensive, and to get there and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to teach them how to convert people on the chairlift into potential clients, and it worked really well. And so 5 years later, same thing with Sotheby's, knock on the door, hi, we're Windermere, we really like your building, we really like your offices, we wanna buy you or become partners. And I was like, no, I don't want any partners at this point in my life because they're so dicey. It's like a marriage, you know, and then they go psycho on you 2 years later. I said, but what I will do is I will sell you the business, but I'm going to keep the real estate. So I kept the real estate because I love the office so much with the mine shaft and all that. And so I sold to Windermere. And so now they have my agents who are now top producing agents there. And they were all bartenders and waiters and waitresses. And
well, they know how to talk, and you just give them the education and the platform to be successful.
And they're great skiers and great snowboarders.
Yeah, exactly. Probably get some free training up there.
And that I do all the time, but they're too
can't
out
keep
there.
up.
Yeah, it's dangerous for me to go with them. So I've done it, and generally I say, okay, you know, where are we going to meet? The bottom of which lift, you know, and I'll see you there. Yeah. Because otherwise.
Okay, so that's company number 2 that you've sold now.
Yes.
And now you're managing director over at Avenue 8. It's a company based out of San Francisco. Can you tell us a little bit about that company?
Well, it was one of the reasons why I came out of retirement, because the model is so amazing. The model is, the way real estate is being done has changed. Real estate itself has not changed, but the way it's being done has changed. And they changed with it to the point where now we really only charge the agent for what it is they need. There were so many things that, and there's still so many things that your conventional broker is charging the agents, and the agents aren't using them. So we kind of bifurcated the whole thing. We got rid of the brick and mortar, and we created an app where you can really do things. I mean, I can do everything I need to do right now in your conference room next door from my iPhone. And I have a lot to do. So, we created that. So I really like that whole concept, yet we have real staff behind it. We have a real marketing person you can call on the phone and come in and sit down and design your ad with. And when they have transactional questions, they call me or Scott. And then each one has what we call an agent experience manager, which is kind of like an office administrator. To handle all their other questions that they'll have about board stuff and CAR stuff and that. So it works really efficiently, and then we're able to, at the end of the year, give more money to the agent because they're only taking, from an a la carte basis, everything that is that they need from us. So that's why I like the concept of that. Now
you're growing, where are you at now as far as number of offices? I know you had San Francisco, you have LA.
Palm Springs, and New York. And you know, my philosophy has always been, even during the DBL days, that your growth becomes organic. It's not really strategic to plan you're going to be places when the growth of your company isn't pulling you in that direction, because you're kind of swimming upstream then. So we'll see where it pulls us, and that's where we'd create another office. So, you know, we're getting pulls in several directions, but we really want to solidify these 4 offices too. We don't want to be spread too thin, you know, until we get things really up and running.
Where do you see the residential market, or the residential real estate sales? Where do you see that going over the next several years? Do you think we're going to see residential offices getting smaller because more agents are working at home? Do you think they'll probably stay the same size, or most of it's just going to go online, isn't it?
So are we talking about houses, or are we talking about real estate offices? What's the
real estate offices?
Oh, okay. Real estate offices are a thing of the past. Not only are they a thing of the past, but we as stewards of real estate agents, i.e. managers and owners, need to stop creating offices for the agents to come to because it's counterproductive. Here's why it's counterproductive. Now I'm talking residential real estate, okay, which is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. We have no beginnings and no ends. There's no going to the office from Monday through Friday and not going in on Saturdays and Sundays, which I'm sure it is in the case of most offices. We work 7 days a week. So then we open offices that are only staffed 5 days a week. So right away we're like not even in sync with what our people are really doing. So the reason why it's not a good idea to have an office, and I just had this conversation with a Beverly Hills real estate agent who said she likes to go into the office. I said, okay, here's the problem with you liking to go in the office. From where you live in Mid-Wilshire to get to the office in Beverly Hills, normally when there's traffic is about 40 to 45 minutes. Now when you get to Beverly Hills, finding parking is not the interesting thing in the whole world. It's probably going to take you another 15 minutes to find parking, so now it's taking you an hour to physically walk in the front door. When you walk in the front door, the first person you see is the receptionist. Now, if you walk right by them and don't say a word, you're rude and nobody's going to want to deal with you, so you need to stop and say, Sally, how have you been? Oh, wow, Joe, haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Everything okay? Now you probably spend another 15 minutes talking to her. You leave Sally and you're heading to your cubicle, to your office, and of course, who do you pass now but the manager? And of course, you wave at the manager and he says to you, come on, Joe, what's going on? What's happening with your transaction on San Vicente? Say, talk to me. Now you spent another half hour with him. Now, mind you, we're at an hour and 45 minutes and you finally get to your cubicle and your desk. You open your laptop, you're ready to work on this marketing piece, and you contact marketing and they say, I'm working remotely from the Redlands today. Can you just email it to me? Now, you spent an hour and 45 minutes to get to your office to realize you have but now it gets better. Now you decide, okay, it's time to leave the office. You've now spent 2 hours there because in 15 minutes you've deduced there's nothing for you to do. You close your laptop and now you've got to do the gauntlet going out again, okay?
Right.
So by the time you get out of there, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes till you get to your car. Now you get in your car and you have another 45 minutes to go home. We're now somewhere around 3.5 hours by the time you get home and you haven't done a darn thing.
Yeah.
Except in your mind.
Yeah, you were busy.
Think, I've spent 3.5 hours at real estate today.
Yeah.
So what have you done as an owner and what have you done as a steward to your people? I tell them I would rather you stay at home in your workout clothes with the dog between your legs, going on the MLS and looking at historical research on a house for the last 20 years so you understand trends in our market.
Yeah.
Than taking 3.5 hours to drive to an office to go through all that silliness that I just explained to you now.
Yeah.
So, offices either should go away, need to go away, and hopefully they'll all get the call from us now when they see that we can effectively operate without physical brick and mortar to now finally close their offices, because they're all going to start to not bleed, but compared to 20 and 21, and they had to build infrastructure to keep up with it, it's scaled down. They're going to look for ways to scale down now. And the best way is to jettison these offices that the agents don't need. And furthermore, we as stewards should not create them for them because we're creating ways for them to waste time.
Yeah. There's something that I want to go back to is the difference between busy and productivity. Is, there's so many agents that I know, and this is in commercial real estate too, they're busy.
That's why we only pay them commissions in residential. We don't care.
So there are a couple of my agents say, I hate that P word. I'm like, okay, but productivity is how you build your success. You've got to be productive. You can be busy and do all the things that make you feel good, but if you're not being productive with your time, because our time is our most valuable asset in real estate, right? As an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so, and I know everybody's sitting here and heard how you've built your success. I don't think what we haven't touched on is how you've managed it. You still work more than most people I know.
Yes.
I mean, you still the hours. And I mean, it's, you made it sound pretty simple about the Utah, how you got in there and did that. I know it was a long-term process and it took a while to build, and it was a lot of work. And, I know people watching this like, oh, that's probably easy because you had a bunch of money. They don't understand what you had to do to get that to happen.
Oh, yeah. Money doesn't help in these situations at all. I had to go to the building department with my hand out for 9 months. Yeah. Constantly asking them, please push my permit along, please. And they don't care how much money you have. So no, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of keeping your eye on the end goal. Yeah. And forget about all the side stuff. You almost need to be a little stupid, I say sometimes. You have these blinders on, not realize how many times you're being punched. Just get up and keep moving at that point. But yeah, it's. I do it because, and I brought it in today, because of this, okay? This is our Broker's Open House Guide. It comes out every Monday. every time it comes out, it reminds me of a child when we would sometime in the beginning of November get what's called the Sears Christmas catalog.
Oh. Yeah.
Which was a huge book like a Yellow Pages. And my parents would go to the toy section and say, you get to pick 3. Well, for the next 45 days, I was going through this book, circling, Xing out, circling,
changing your mind, yeah.
So for me, every Monday when this book comes out, this becomes my Sears Christmas catalog because it's the new listings. And to go out on a Tuesday in our beautiful weather and look at beautiful homes that are new on the market, which keeps me so abreast and in tune and such an asset to my clients and to my agents. And my agents are my clients, so when I say clients, I kind of mean my agents. I look forward to it every Tuesday. And from a Tuesday from 11 to 2, I pretty much schedule nothing. You need to be an extremely VIP to get me to schedule something for you between the hours of 11 to 2. So that's kind of why. And as long as that happens, as long as every Monday I'm excited to see what's new and to have the opportunity on Tuesday to go out and see it, not to mention my network, to be able to see my network of agents. You know, you figure that I had 800 agents, but, you know, they came and they went, so I probably trained, what, 2,000, 3,000 agents?
Yeah.
So I have 3,000 people out there that on Tuesdays are doing the same thing I'm doing and going to these houses. So it's a nice time for me to see everybody again and to stay abreast of the inventory. There's no better way to stay
on top of the market
than to see new product.
Yeah.
It's almost all you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, pretty much all.
And you probably know every agent and every open house.
Quite a few.
Yeah, I can imagine you do.
Quite a few.
Where did your entrepreneurship come from? Was it run in your family?
You know, I think it had to be. I do remember growing up that my parents always would ask questions. They would say, "What do you think?"
Right.
With several different options. And my grandmother, constantly growing up, she was always like, you know, you're going to do some really interesting things someday. You get told that enough, you almost start to believe it for yourself. So my high school, when I started going to high school, it switched over to what was called an independent study plan, where we no longer had rooms or bells or classes, that you would go and check in the morning, and then you would go to the learning centers. And at the learning center, like you'd go to the history learning center, you'd ask for chapter 1. You'd read chapter 1. When you thought you were ready, you go to the testing center, you take the test. If you pass the test, you could go back to that learning center and take chapter 2. And you had several different classes, and so you had several different learning centers to go. And the point of it was we were on an independent study program. Well, for some reason, I just thought it was the greatest fun and the biggest game in the whole world. And in 2.5 years, I was done. Okay? And so I graduated high school in 2.5 years because of this independent. They had to stop the program after the first 6 years because most children were taking 5 to 6 years to get through all of the classes because they weren't taught self-motivation in grammar school. And then when you just let them loose into this independent thing, it didn't work. But for some reason, for myself and for 2 good friends of mine, Peter and Lenora Sue, another friend of ours, and Kathy, actually the 4 of us, we all just completely, you know, we excelled at it. And so we got done. And then it was a fight with our parents in the school because the school wanted to charge our parents for the full 4 years because they were giving us our high school diploma. And we're like, no, we're only there 2.5 years. They're using your resources and your teachers and all that. Why would we pay? So then they started to charge per diploma.
Oh.
So even the 5-year people then wouldn't have to pay more than whatnot. So, but after, like I said, they had to disband it because the children just weren't ready for it. So anyway, point being is I think my ability to excel under no parameters per se probably also helped me in my entrepreneurial spirit.
That makes sense. What do you think is the #1 trait for an entrepreneur?
Focus. Well, you know, entrepreneur, define that term, you know, I mean.
Somebody that is going out and creating their own company, I guess, their own business.
It's a combination of focus and adaptability. So you focus on an end point But to get to the end point, you have to be able to adapt, because things are going to change that you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of the person who can adapt the best and the quickest gets there. I tell people all the time, every time you learn something new, the way you learn is really through mistakes and failures. Mm-hmm. It's a part of the learning process. But my thought is, let's get the mistakes out of the way as quickly as possible. So we'll spend as little time as possible.
Take the education from it, yeah.
In the beginning of that learning curve, so that we can get to the true meat of it all. And selling real estate is the same thing. Make all your mistakes early on. Let's get them out of the way so we can really get down to focusing you to be a top producer. So,
beautiful. What's your number one success, do you think?
There's no such thing.
You don't think so?
No. It's a series of impeccable little things.
Okay.
That over enough time gives momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually do great things by consistent thought and focus versus waiting for the one big deal, the one big client. I think that's a bit of a not truism. I don't believe they exist, and I believe we lull ourselves like buying a lottery ticket and thinking we're going to get rich without working for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
You really see that. Now you guys can see why I call him my mentor. I still learned a lot from you, just having you come in and sit with us today. So, Alan, thank you for coming in. I know it's almost 11 o'clock, so we got to get you out of here to get there.
I am going, and I'm taking 4 of our newbies. I'm taking them on caravan, and I tell you, they're going to get an education of their life.
Do you make them drive?
No, I drive.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, I know, driving with me. But I'll
that's a treat. Well, Alan, thank you very much. I hope we can do this again soon.
I'd love to. Thanks, Joe. Have a nice day.
You too. Enjoy the caravan. And for those of you watching, make sure you give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.
Yes, and if any of you are interested in going caravan with me, I'm Alan at avenue8.com.
Oh, yeah. We'll actually put his contact information down below for you.
Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.